This is the solution to the previous activity where you have to get a user input, so 0 or 1, and depending on that user input, you will power off or power on the LED. So I'm going to remove all that. And first, because we are going to use some Python modules, I'm going to import those modules. So import rpi.gpio as GPIO. Okay, I'm always going to use the as GPIO to make it simpler with that library name. Then I'm also going to import time because I know I'm going to use it. First, I define LED pin 17. So this is the GPIO 17 that we are going to use. I do GPIO set mode, okay, with GPIO BCM. Okay, so for now we are only doing setup, okay? This is not the core of the program, this is not the core functionality of the program, this is just the setup that we need before we can actually write the functionality. And GPIO.setup, I'm going to set up the LED pin or GPIO to GPIO out. And finally, the last line will be GPIO.cleanup. Okay, so we have our structure. So this is the beginning of the code. We set up everything we need. And then what we're going to do is I'm creating a variable named state, and I'm getting the state from the user inputs. So I will convert that input to an integer, okay, to get 0 or 1, which will make things easier to process. And so input, we are going to give a message. So let's make it very explicit. Enter 0 to power off the LED, 1 to power on the LED. Okay, so if we just run that script like that, so let's save as activity 4. So we have that warning here, as you can see, that we already had before. Don't worry about that warning, okay? This channel is already in use. This is normal, so enter 0 or 1. If I enter 1, okay, it's working. And if I enter something else, of course, we will also have an error. So now we are going to check on that state variable. So because we used int here, we already know that it will be an integer. So if you provide something else than an integer, as you can see here, like a string, then this will not pass the line 9. Okay. So now we need to check if state is equal to 0. So as you can see here, I use equal. Okay, that's very important. Use two equals. So we check if the state is equal to 0. It means that we can power off the LED. So we are going to do GPIO dot output LED pin and GPIO low. Okay, and then we can have an else if. So elif in Python, state equals 1, still with two equal sign, GPIO output LED pin and GPIO dot I. Okay, and then we have else. Okay, so if we have 0, we power off the LED. If we have 1, we power on the LED, and else, which means any other number we get, that number is not correct. So what we are going to do is first I'm going to print, let's say, wrong state value. Maybe I can also print the state value. So I'm going here to need to cast that to a string because now it is an integer. Okay, so I print the state. Okay, so either the state is correct and it's 0, or it's correct and it's 1, or it's incorrect, and we print a message. After that, what we can do is we can do time.sleep let's say 2 seconds this time. Okay, so we can see the LED powered on. Okay, if you press 1, you will see the LED powered on, but if you don't use the time slip, then the GPIO cleanup will just power off the LED and you won't be able to see the result. And because we do that, actually, if you enter a wrong value, okay, let's start the script now. And if you enter a wrong value, okay, so for the string, of course, it will exit here. But if I enter an integer, let's say 3, wrong state value 3, and you can see the program exits only after 2 seconds. What we want to do here is directly to exit, okay, when we have the error, because there is nothing else to do. We don't want to wait for 2 seconds after you know for sure that the value is not correct, and then you just need to exit the program. So we are going to print the message and exit the program. And because we exit the program, of course, we will not execute those lines. So what we can do is actually to do a GPIO cleanup. So we get the state. If the state is one of those which are accepted, we then power on or power off the LED, and then we sleep for 2 seconds. I could have put the time sleep to here and here, but it would be redundant, okay? So then we sleep for 2 seconds and we clean up GPIO. And if the state is not correct, error message, clean up GPIO, exit. Now let's run that again. And let's say I use 1, so you will see the LED will be powered on for 2 seconds. If I use 0, the LED will be powered off, but actually, okay, let's run it like that. Actually, you can see that nothing will happen because the LED was already powered off. So maybe if you want to test that case, what you can do is you can do GPIO dot output here, LED pin GPIO I. So you can already power on the LED first, okay, and then you ask for the state, and now by default, as you can see, the LED is powered on. Now if I give 0, the LED will be powered off. I start the program again. If I put 1, the LED will still be powered on for 2 seconds, and then GPIO cleanup will power off the LED and reset the state for the pin. Alright, that's it for this activity.